Okay, welcome everybody. We've got 34 people in now, which is a good number, so we'll make a start. Just had a core team meeting, and the synopsis of that really was that everything seems to be ticking over very nicely on the streets in terms of what we've set up to date. Not inundated with requests to the helplines, no requests from street coordinators for the core team to offer them help and assistance. So everything's ticking over very well. So what we're turning our thoughts to now in the core team is coming out of all of this, or as one of the street coordinators said to me, fledging, which I quite like. So we're going to be focusing in the coming few days and weeks about two principal aspects, which are economic impact, financial impact on people. What help do we need to put in place regarding maybe continuing or expanding the food parcels scheme, and also in terms of people's mental well-being, because we are sure that there is a serious issue out there with people being depressed, anxious, lonely and isolated, and we're turning our thoughts to what can we put in place to help such people. So previous week we talked about a friend scheme, and last week I put out a to all the street coordinators saying how we can roll out. I think I might have said that Caroline Mansell has had very little response from that, which means either that people are struggling to identify people who will be useful beneficiaries of the service, or some people saying they can't hear me. Let's see if I can do something about that.
Can hear you here. Okay.
I hope that's better for people who were saying they couldn't hear me.
It's better then. It's better now, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you. Good. I did the trick that Ed Stodham always talks about, which is turn off the email at the same time. So to recap, we're looking at how to expand the service to help in two key areas. One is financial difficulty coming out of the lockdown, and the other is mental well-being coming out of the lockdown. So we talked about the Phone a Friend scheme, and we've had a little response to that. So maybe people are able to identify the people who would benefit, or maybe we just haven't got around to it yet. But we might need to roll that out a bit more forcefully. There's a new initiative that I'd like to talk to you about. Well, not I wouldn't like to talk to you about. I'd like to somebody else talk to you about. It's just going to be started up by HR Friends, involving again contacting people who are isolated. So I'm going to ask Paul Seeking to say a few words.
We're really struggling, Don, with you.
Are you ready?
Yeah, Don, if you turn your video off, Don, and it will be better, please.
Okay, I've done that. Now you can't see me, but that may be a benefit. So I'm going to ask Paul Seekins to say a few words about a new initiative that's just about to roll out.
Thank you, Don. Hopefully everybody can hear me, or I'll turn myself off and then it'll be even better. So yeah, what we've done is Hi Friends have got a couple of mobile phones that we can actually give out to particularly older people, but not exclusively older people. What we were very conscious of was people were making calls, and a phone has been a lifeline for folks. However, of course, you can't see people on a telephone. Now, I know many people have been using WhatsApp, FaceTime, those sorts of things, but many particularly older people, but again, not exclusively older people, don't have access to that technology. So we've been able to provide that through mobile phones. So if there is someone who you're aware of who would benefit from something like that, i.e. to physically see relatives over a telephone conversation using WhatsApp, then we've got the ability to be able to do that. So the easiest way to make that happen is contact me All my details are on the high histamine and COVID-19 community response page, web page under health and well-being, phone number, email. Either of those is entirely fine. And I can get back and arrange that. So basically what it would mean is dropping a mobile phone off to someone, talking to the relatives just to make sure they know exactly what to do. The relative would dial into that number, and the person on the receiving end at Histon would just be able to press a button and be able to see and communicate with their relatives. So we just thought that was hopefully a good idea to just try and help people through this time, particularly those folks who are likely to be isolated for longer. We know that the lockdown is coming out, or is being restrictions are less so, but the bottom line is that there's still lots of people that are isolated, and I think that we just felt it was a nice thing to be able to offer. We can do it. So if you know of anybody, then let me know. Hopefully that's reasonably clear as to the way it's going to operate.
And Paul, am I right in thinking that this would be helpful, particularly to elderly residents whose relatives live a long way away?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think we're conscious that probably they have phoned folks, which is great, but certainly in my experience, and I think it's possibly true for many of us, actually physically seeing someone like we do on Zoom, there is a different dynamic from just a voice at the end of a phone. And certainly I know I've benefited from that, both here and in other settings. And I'm sure that older people would do the same. And certainly when we've got older people onto Zoom to be able to do that, because obviously they have the technology in their home, that has been massive benefit. So we're just trying to extend that further for folks who maybe don't have internet at home, etc.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Paul. And the beauty of this is it doesn't require any IT infrastructure, as Paul says, or indeed any IT knowledge. All the recipient does is press the green phone on the screen and they're instantly connected because somebody elsewhere is doing all of the work to contact them. So hopefully that might help a few people. So what we're looking for really is ideas and help from anybody out there as to what we should be putting in place to help the mental well-being of people as we are coming out of this lockdown. And it strikes us that there must be some expertise amongst this group and wider in the community. So if you have any expertise, please come forward and let us know. It's very close to the end of what I wanted to say in terms of updates. So in a minute, I'll be asking you to put stuff on the chat of things that you want to talk about. But one message from Nikki Searle, who couldn't make it to this meeting today, is that we have the community Trishaw scheme. And now that we are allowed to form bubbles, this is something that people might benefit from, so that family bubbles can go out together for trips in the Trishaw. And the idea being that we would train up one member of the family to be the driver. And this is something that might appeal to people. So if anybody is interested in that or is interested in spreading the word, please do so. I will put that in the weekly update, of course. Right, end of everything I wanted to say. So let's have a look at the chat and see what's, most of the chat appears to be about not being able to hear me, but I'll gloss over that.
Don, I think Paul's got his hand up.
Don, I was just going to, could we mention about the newsletter as well that we're pulling together? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, my apologies. I forgot.
No,
about
no, no,
that.
no, 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 no. We hadn't really. It was just a thought now. So just to get you up to speed, we're putting a newsletter together from Hi Friends. We sort of called it a while you're at home newsletter because it's not just applicable for older people. It's really again pulling on what Don's saying about isolated people, and it's just to try and make people aware there are all sorts of different things, and many of the things that we've talked about and that you know about have tried to pull together to make people aware of those things. Actually, as we mentioned the Trishaw, that needs to be included. I knew that there was something I'd forgotten, and obviously the telephone scheme, the other things, those sorts of things. So what we will do is that's actually literally being laid out at the moment. The text has been put together. Hopefully that will be out at the end of this week, the beginning of next week. We will send that through to the distribution really is anybody who would like it. It's the simple answer to that. We know of a significant number of people already, so we will make sure it gets to those. We will then also look at folks like St Audrey's, Close, KH Way, those type of areas as well, where there is a good number of older people who potentially are isolated, to be able to distribute it to them. And it's really just to try and engage people. I put a few puzzles in there, a few poems in there. There's a few resources that we can actually get to folks. Things like colouring, craft activities, sporting memories, CDs. There's a whole range of things that are possible. And it links back to what Don's saying about trying to help people with their mental well-being. If you do a project, then you can feel better as a result of it, but actually you may not know where to start. Well, actually there are resources around. We can actually access those. We can get them to you. So that's really sort of it in 30 seconds as to what it's about. It's just to try and engage. There are resources around for folks, and what we will do, I think, is we will be sending that to, I think, did we say Don the Street coordinators and volunteers when we've got it lined up? And then if they know of anybody who it would be useful for, we're getting some printed out. They can be just put through a letterbox and go from there.
Exactly. Yep. Thanks, Paul. Right, turning to the chat. Fair Hall. Does the isolated person need Wi-Fi? Absolutely not. All they need is a phone signal, so they're given the phone and the phone will ring at an appointed time and they answer it. So no, they don't need any IT infrastructure at all. From Hannah, who is eligible and how long can they have the phone for? Don't think we've got any restrictions on eligibility. It's intended for people who specifically don't have the IT infrastructure or capability. So I think it's in our head, we're thinking about elderly people, but that wouldn't exclusively be them. So I don't think, Paul, we've got any restrictions on eligibility, have we?
No is the answer to that. Exactly what you're describing. It's just to make something accessible to more people. So those who haven't got the technology or the infrastructure to be able to do that, absolutely. And just to say, yes, I have a large supply of antibacterial wipes as well. So the phones will be sanitized and then collected up. Yeah, I mean, the view is just to arrange a time when someone would make a call to a relative, or a relative would make a call to them. So the phone is there for them. The relative would make the call, and a matter of hours later, maybe a day or whatever between, we would then go pick up the phone. Obviously, we'll see how it operates, see how much demand there is, but that's the idea of it.
And I think you just answered the next question, which is how long can they have the phone for? Pretty much as long as they want. I mean, obviously not for a year, but as long as they need to make, as long as they need to make the call.
Yes.
We have I think how many phones do we have, Paul?
I've got 3, I think, at the moment, but I saw that there's 4, so I don't know where the other one is, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think we've got enough at the moment. Let's put it that way. Let's see how we get on. And yes, I mean, my view is that it would be someone will be able to make a call or whatever, and then the next day, or in the afternoon, or they made it in the morning, and the afternoon someone picks it up and goes from there. So let's see how we get on, but I think there's the facility to be able to provide a good service.
on the questions about the phone, they only be able to contact one family member. Well, I think critically, the family member contacts them is the first thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And if they have the phone for half a day and we want to pre-arrange calls from more than one family member, then that's perfectly okay. I think the pre-arranging is the point, because
Yes.
we'll have to say, we'll give you the phone on Thursday afternoon and they can contact you then.
Yeah. And obviously, I can liaise with the relatives as to what the numbers are, how to do it, all the rest of it, and exactly. And then we arrange a drop off and a pick up time and do it that way.
Yep. Next question, which is how many of these phones do you have? Local residents are suffering because they don't have the right sort of phone. Exactly. So providing them with the right sort of phone and the phone number, and someone dials into that. Joe, I believe the phone is dropped off. Yeah, that's correct. Right, interesting post from Georgina Simons on HIV this morning about our food banks. Okay. That is critical to one of the two areas that we were talking about in the core team, being financial stability going forward. And going back, the I think I glossed over was from Jill Waters. Do people think we need weekly meetings, or would fortnightly be sufficient now? It's an interesting one. It'd be good to get people's views on that. I play volleyball every other week, and 9 times out of 10, I would turn up on the week when there wasn't volleyball. So that's an interesting thing about fortnightly. Be easy with this, I guess, because we'll either get the invitation from Ed or we won't, and that will tell us whether it's on or off. Interesting one. That's it. Over to you. I don't know. I've got no strong views on it. If people think that we could get away with fortnightly, then maybe we should.
Just my opinion. I think we should keep them weekly, just because I know it feels like lockdown is, opening up and everybody's a bit more out and about and that kind of thing. But we're not through this yet. We've still got all kinds of issues that we will face in the future, including, financial anxiety, other mental health issues. Let's, in my opinion, keep it weekly. If it only takes 10 minutes, then great. But like you say, Don, with volleyball, you don't want to turn up on the wrong week.
Wrong week, exactly. Yeah. And we're certainly happy to keep them going if people want to keep turning up. I suppose if we had them weekly, people could choose to join fortnightly, and they wouldn't have to have the same commitment. We are now doing summaries every week as to what happened in the meeting, so that those people who miss it can keep up. Caroline Mansell, we can't respond quickly if we're only meeting every 2 weeks. Good point. I think all the responses so far, which are very few, is a weekly short meeting is better than a fortnightly longer one. Keeping them under 30 minutes would be good. Well, I think we're going to manage that this week, unless something comes up with a burning topic in the next 10 minutes. Weekly. Excellent. Right. So the other thing that we're sending out weekly now is a good news digest, which typically comes out on a Thursday and is focusing on things like how the village is getting back to normal, opening. We're looking at the employers in the village, and what's happening at Vision Park, what's happening to the various different employment centres in the village, and we'll keep that sort of thing updated and keep coming forward in the weekly digest. So if there's no more issues to raise on the chat, I think we can call this one to a close in 21 minutes, which is a new record. thank you very much, everybody, and see you again next week.
Don, do you want to just hold on just one moment? Everybody's
Yep.
still replying to the weekly or fortnightly thing. Let's just hold on for a sec just to make sure that nobody's got any other questions.
Yeah, certainly. But all the responses so far have been stay weekly, of which is about 10, I think.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody's got any other questions not related to that.
Okay. Happy to hang on. I think that answers that one.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.